And welcome back to What If Goku and Raditz Went to Earth Together Part 6. Last time on the Dragon Ball Z, What If, basically King Piccolo got sealed away again. Because Kami, thanks to the thinking of Radditz and everything like that, had his youth restored and been training in the hyperbolic time chamber in the other thing that sent them to the past. I can't remember what that one was. So his power well exceeded Piccolo at this point. And, they just openly sealed him again. They used the dragon, sealed him. As long as Kami keeps getting stronger, the dragon keeps getting stronger, and the seal's about as strong as the dragon, so that seal isn't breaking anytime soon. So, this now left us with, well, what happens now? You got Goku, Radditz, Bardock, Gine, all that. What happens with them? Are they going to be doing the tournament again? There's no Piccolo Jr. now. So ultimately, they spend the next 3 years up at Kami's. I mean, they pop down, visit Gohan every now and then, check in, see how things are going at the brief state. Bulba's keeps trying to hit on Rad's. Rad's like, no, and all that. But no, they spend good amount of time training, and yeah, I also think Kami, like Dende, fixes the hyperbolic time chamber, so you can go in multiple times. Now, I mean, after the whole initial two for everyone's done over, I think he realized, like, no, it'd probably benefit us to be able to go again. So after 3 years of training, where does that put everyone? Again, Gine was never a warrior, so I don't think Gine participates in the training. Kami, there's 4 of them, though, so you got Goku, Radditz, Kami, and Goku. Goku, Radditz, Kami. You got Kakarot, Radditz, Bardock, and Kami. So I think first and foremost, Radditz and Kakarot would head in, and Kami and Bardock would head in, because Bardock's clearly stronger than Kami still, and Kami realizes this. So they're the best choices for training with each other. And Raditz and Goku are closer to a strength, so they've been together with each other longer than Bardock's been around. So it makes sense to be training with them. So all of them use the hyperbolic time chamber twice, though Kami only has the one more time left, so he fixes it, and they only get multiple times. They have also the going in the past thing. So with that all said and done, where am I putting these guys long-term power level wise? Multiple uses of hyperbolic time chamber, 3 years, training with multiple opponents and partners, plus other training methods as well. Training with Popo to, kind of have a general, it's kind of like, it's not really Ultra Instinct, although Popo is kind of training Goku with Ultra Instinct in Dragon Ball when you think about it a little bit. You're getting all that other training. Let's go down the list. So Bardock, if I last remember, was 12,000. Kami was around 9. Oh, where did I'm going to be honest, I actually forgot where I had Kakarot and Radditz. I know neither of them were above 2 grand. I want to say that Goku or Kakarot in this case, had surpassed Radditz by a little bit, but I might be wrong. I think Radditz was like 1,800 and Kakarot was like 1,900. Let's conservatively say that. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to change where I ultimately think they end up. We know also Kakarot just probably had more potential than Radditz. At least that's the implication they give us in the Broly movie. So he would probably progress faster anyway. But Bardock is still league stronger ultimately. At least for now. So conservatively, where do I put them? I would put Bardock probably at a very solid 300,000. I think that's pretty reasonable. Remember, we don't have Super Saiyan transformations right now to really push the edge. Or push the envelope. But 300,000 over 3 years, given all the circumstances, I think is really good for Bardock. Kami, likewise, is probably more closer to about, because he's not, Kami technically is a warrior Namekian. Let's actually be clear about that. Because, I mean, Piccolo is, and he came from King Piccolo, and King Piccolo and Kami are just 2 pops of the same hole. So technically, in his youth, in his old age, he was actually much stronger than Dende, too. Think about that. But technically, Kami is a warrior Namekian, who just happened to be able to make the Dragon Balls. So I wouldn't put him as high as Bardock, but around 150 to 200,000. Let's even it out and say 175,000. I think that's a pretty good number for him because he's also got to still focus on his duties as Guardian of the Earth, so he can't train as willy nilly as he'd like. But he still gets a lot of training in, I'd imagine. Goku and Radditz. Goku's progression is probably going to be faster, so I think he's surpassed Kami. I don't think he's surpassed his dad yet. Ghost, you got to remember those Saiyan Zenkais. So I would say he's probably around 200, maybe 225. I wouldn't go 250. Let's say 200. With Raditz, I think pulling up the rear, being a bit weaker than Kami, at about 150,000. With Gine being 500. I know, it seems like a huge disparity. It's like, Gine needs to train. No, Gine never struck me as someone who wanted to train. So she doesn't have to train. So the years pass. They don't even really need to go even participate in the martial arts tournament because they've learned to sense power levels at this point, obviously. They can sense they don't need to be a part of the martial arts. They still show up, absolutely. And years later, Radditz clearly is like, and plus they're a lot older too because he's in the hyperbolic time chamber, ages them up. So Goku isn't like that early 20s, 18. He's more like mid 20s now. So when Bulma finally sees him again after all these years, she's dating Yamcha at this point because they haven't been around enough. But Goku's like, "Oh, hey, Bulma." It's like, "Oh, Goku, wow, you're looking great." Oh, sorry, Kakarot, you're looking fantastic. It's like, "Oh, thanks." It's like, "You're looking really great too." It's like, yes, she is, Kakarot. Yes, she is. I'm kind of. You're here to watch tournament too. Yeah, I'm supporting my boyfriend. It's like, oh, it's like, who scored you? You, Bulma. And then say, that would be Yamcha. It's like, oh, well, good for you. It's like, and she looks on. It's like, maybe I missed my chance at Goku or at Kakarot. But at the same time, he's still single, and she clearly dumps Yamcha later on. That possibility's still there. The whole Chi-Chi thing, I don't think that happens because Kakarot is very much aware of what a wife is, and probably wouldn't have missaid that. Although, I imagine Chi-Chi was still crushing on Kakarot, and does ultimately, find her way to the tournament. She's participating in the tournament, thinking he's going to participate, but she's upset to find out he's not. But she's still going to show up for him anyway. And say, yeah, she's pretty strong. Wait a minute, is that Chi-Chi? It's like, oh, so you finally remember me, huh? Where have you been all these years, Kakarot? You don't want to ever come say hi? He's like, did I do something wrong? She's just kidding and say, no, it's nothing like that. Just been busy training and all that. Speaking of training, there is one other thing I didn't mention, and that's their tail, the Ozaru form. Have they learned to master that, control that, control themselves in that? The beauty of Kami's lookout is there's a lot they can do on that lookout. So I would imagine that with Kami, training in the hyperbolic time chamber with Bardock early on, I think one of the things they do is get strong enough to help train them into use Ozaru properly, while being strong enough to contain. Like for instance, if Goku and Raditz are below 2,000, that means going to Ozaru means they'll be below 20,000. Get a full year training with Bardock in the hyperbolic time chamber. Both Bardock and him are going to be well over 20,000. So they'd be more than capable of handling an Ozaru that went crazy. So yeah, I think definitely they would be able to manage their Ozaru forms at this point. They don't have an Ikari form, or a Super Saiyan 4. Yeah, I honestly don't know if I'm going to even do that. I don't always do the Super Saiyan Primal, as I refer to it, because you don't have the steps. If they bypass 3, there's no point in calling it Super Saiyan 4. I call it Primal because it's a Primal looking form. But I don't know. I haven't really put much consideration if I'm going to do that. I don't always do it. Sometimes I do it, but I don't always. But they can at least go into their Ozaru forms at will. Oh, excuse me. So, she and Goku or Kakarot are talking. Raz is just looking on. Ultimately, the martial arts tournament comes down to, I'd say, Tien and Krillin. And I would say that ultimately Tien's the one who does pull out the win. Because even though Krillin in canon becomes the strongest human, Tien, let's be honest, is the better martial artist. He took that more seriously than Krillin did. Because Krillin became a cop, had a family, all that. He's still a fantastic fighter and the strongest human on the planet. But yeah, Tien's the better fighter. So, Tien wins, it mentions how it's, good to see them, all that. Now, you might be wondering, well, what about the whole turtle and crane school issue? Well, the thing about that is there would be some issue. You might see, Shen try to go after Goku or Radditz or Bardock, but ultimately get smacked down and, turned down and all that. I think Tien ultimately is still a decent guy, but he's probably a bit more rough around the edges, a bit more stern than he is in the original version. Should also note, I didn't bring it up before, I should bring it up now, there is no launch in this version, because that was Goku who brought launch, not Krillin, if I remember correctly. Although, I suppose, and Krillin doesn't have the flying Nimbus, so take that for what it's worth. Which now leads into, the 5-year time skip. Or longer, because there is no Radditz to show up, because Radditz is right there. The question quickly becomes, A, how many years is it going to be before someone shows up? And, A. And then B, who's going to show up? We know Nappa and Vegeta were listening in on Radditz's scouter initially. But it's to show up. But would they show up on their own? Probably not if they have no reason to show up there, unless they're tasked with going there. Frieza eventually is going to show up, but when and how? More than likely what's going to happen is they're going to detect the power levels on planet Earth. I mean, frankly, they should be able to detect them now, but they're probably just not paying attention because Earth is so far out of the way. And they honestly, from what I can tell, can't just sense power levels all the way out there. So I think it's going to be a good long while before anyone shows up on Earth, which means even more training happens. I would go so far as to say this. There's probably a good decade worth of time that passes where it's pretty much just peace and training. In that decade, however, Radditz probably doesn't meet anyone because there's no one in canon I can think of. Although maybe he could run into Launch at some point. I suppose. It's possible. And the blonde version of him, or version of her, really digs Radditz. Like, oh, tough guy. I like a tough guy. And he actually likes the sweet version of her, too. It's like, you're very sweet. Sweet. But you know what? I want the wild one tonight. You got it, cowboy. It's like, I can see that. Goku, or Kakarot in this case. Kakarot, I'll be flat out honest, because Bulma is with Yamcha, I could see Kakarot eventually settling down with Chi-Chi. It might take longer in this version, hence why 10 years, you still might get the same age of same Gohan as you did initially. Although, with Grandpa Gohan still there, hello Gohan, that's my name too. Gohan. I know people I've had someone really comment, he's like, Paramount Bulma's that. I don't see a rational version of this where not necessarily irrational. There's a version of this where he could wind up with Bulma, but she's already with Yamcha by the time they meet up. She does have a history with them, but she was always crushing more on Radditz. Radditz would be probably dating someone more like Launch at this point. So take that for what it's worth. Gohan, though, because he's got his Grandpa Bardock, his Grandpa Gohan, I believe if I'm not mistaken, that was kind of what Gohan's voice sounded like. Goku. Yeah. Because first off, got and they're friends with the Briefs, good friends. They've got great education system that they can roll Gohan in. But he can still get training in from his Saiyan lineage, all that. Because they explain very much to Chi-Chi, like, oh no, we're not human. We're Saiyans. We live for battle. And he's like, you're going to have to understand. I agree. The standard, a middle ground's got to be reached. I mean, the kid's probably going to be pretty smart given his lineage, but he's also going to have our warrior DNA. You're going to have to blend that lifestyle, otherwise things are going to come to a head with you in this household. And Chi-Chi's probably not happy about this. Who are you to tell me what I can do with me? Who are you to tell me what I can and can't do with my kids? He's like, honey, Dad's probably right. It's like, and she's just like, I don't want him to be just a fighter. It's like, he doesn't have to be just a fighter, but he should still train just in case he needs to fight. One day we are going to have to probably face Frieza, and Frieza is still would make mincemeat of us even now. So yeah, they agree. So Gohan would actually get training in this. And Gohan's base was 724, if I'm not mistaken. So you add that with training, and I mean, he probably wouldn't train immediately, but probably right around the year that we meet him in the original series is when his training really starts to kick into gear. Not light sport, nothing serious, mind you. When they get to be like in his teens, say like teen Gohan when he fought Cell, that's when they take him up to comics for like real serious training. But, as training continues over 10 years, Kami at this point, I'm going to go just jack him all the way up to about 3 million, because that's a lot of training, a lot of time chambering you can do. Bardock, Goku, Radditz. Just for conservative numbers' sake, I'm going to go 10 million for Bardock. Again, no Super Saiyan, mind you. We do not have Super Saiyan multipliers right now. They have Ozaru multipliers, so they can train to Ozaru, which is why 10 million for Bardock, probably reasonable. I would say, though, Goku has probably surpassed his dad at this point. So he's probably hitting about 15 million. And Radditz is probably hitting around, I think even Rads maybe has surpassed his dad, too. But not by much. Radditz probably clocks in at around 11 million. I think that'd be the funny part. Is that he's 1 million more than his dad, but his dad's just a better fighter. So that's where they stand. And that has, again, power levels, they can be strong to be sensed from galaxies, even universes, realm of the Kais. Goku Super Saiyan 3, his power reached such a height that even in the world of the Kais, separate macroverse of that dimension, of that universe, and they were still able to sense Goku's energy. Power levels can get that high where, things can be detected. And I would imagine that, I don't know. I don't want to say that Frieza could sense them yet. I really don't. What I could deduce, though, is that through routine traveling, because that's what Vegeta and Nappa were doing for the longest time, was routine traveling. Just traveling around, just doing shit. They might have picked up something on the planet. Something was up. Kami, like I said, about 3 million, because he's still training, but he's probably training more alone these days than anything else, though Bardock probably goes and spars with them now and then. One of them probably goes and spars with them now and then. So I imagine they probably pick up signals. They probably also keep their power heavily suppressed, too. Like, as we saw when Goku came to Namek, his power was allegedly only 1,000 or like 5,000, something like that, when in reality it was like 90,000. So and Trunks' power was read at like 5 when it was like millions. That was base form. So I imagine their power is heavily suppressed most of the time. Also a good training exercise, too. Probably a couple thousand at best. So eventually but through occasional training and maybe even the odd wish that's probably made for the Dragon Ball, for instance, Kami getting stronger, the dragon getting more effective, possibly able to grant 3 wishes at this point, maybe reinforcing the King Piccolo seals that it keeps, in there. Maybe they pick up on it and eventually they make their way to Earth. They all sense the energy approaching and eventually, get the action. Now, Gohan stays put for now, but Gohan's power should know This is Gohan when we see him at the beginning of the series. 725. He's not quite the crybaby he was. He's actually, pretty tough, though he's still a kid. He's still, can be hurt and cry and all that stuff if he needs to. But he does know how to, fight and will protect himself and his family if need be. His power, I imagine, is actually more closer to about 5,000, I'd say. I think it's a real reasonable number because his potential is massive. But remember, we're talking early stages of trailing for Gohan. And it's 5,000 versus 725. I don't want anyone to think I'm nerfing Gohan right now. I think I'm actually being very generous to Gohan. So eventually, Bardock, Kakarot, Radditz, they go off and meet Nappa and Vegeta. They get out of their puzzle. So this is Earth. Doesn't look like much, Vegeta. Now, where are those signals? They're right here. Oh, Radditz! I think you're still here. I think you're still alive after all these years. Amazing. Amazing. Oh, what's this? Your brother, Kakarot, wasn't it? My word, so you must be the powers we sensed were coming down. And who is this fellow right here? It looks very much similar to... No, it couldn't be. Bardock. Is that you? That's him, Vegeta. I recognize that mug anywhere. But how? He died against Frieza. It's like, yeah, funny story about that. Death was fun, but not really my style. Didn't take. Well, how did you make it back? How did you? It doesn't really matter. We're here. Voice is going a little bit. We're gonna put you back in the ground, isn't that right, Vegeta? That's right. But first we should before any real shenanigans begin, we should let him know why we came. We had a weird sensing of energy on this planet. We were passing by, and it turns out we find you here. So tell me, what is with the energy we sensed? Depends on what you mean by energy. That depends on what you mean by energy. Yeah, energy. Well, it wasn't really a power level per se. It was more energy of some kind. You can't really describe it. Almost vibrant and mystical in nature. It's wouldn't you like to know? So you do know what's going on here. And you're hiding something, aren't you? Perhaps we are, but then we're not going to tell you. Oh, perhaps we should. Well, it's been a little while since we had a solid scrap, and it does look like you've gotten stronger. All right, we'll bite. Before we do this, let's take this somewhere else. I don't think the people of this city are going to really like us wrecking this place. Oh, so you've actually gained a sense of honor, I see, Bardock. Then again, you did, what I heard, you did stand up against Frieza's entire army and Frieza himself. So I doubt you really liked it. But you, Rads, I'm quite surprised. You really were more cowardly than anything else. And Rad's like, let's take this elsewhere. It's like, my pleasure. And, they go to the wasteland. It's like, so, you want to do this, Radditz? I mean, after all, you couldn't even handle a Cyberman back in the day. It's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever. Let's just do this. And so, Vegeta, Nappa are facing off against Radditz, Bardock, and Kakarot. How will this end? Let's be honest, not well for Nappa and Vegeta, but how not well? That's what we're going to determine next week. Till then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. So thanks for watching. See you next time, folks. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. And I'll catch you on the flip side.